Well, folks, you probably know there are unbelievable protests all over Europe by farmers in London, in Holland, in the EU, in Brussels. And you see the farmers have tractors and equipment, and they can play puck, and that's why the protests are so prolific and so successful. And in one case in The Hague, they went over along the beach or somewhere, some of those cities in Holland, went over along the beach with the tractors and got in right beside the presidential palace and the government buildings and all. The police had the whole streets all blocked, but lorries and everything, but they come up around the beach, and that would work in many places in Ireland as well. So the thing about it is, if you look at some of the stuff they're doing, they're trying to put the farmers out in Holland. They're trying to cut back the nitrogen situation. But if you look in Ireland now, I have to register for my nitrates and for my fertilizers. But one of the things you have to record is your herd number, where you're putting it out, and your address. So they're going to have that online. And one of the effects of that is that many traditional storekeepers and meal feeders who also supplied fertilizer might not have computer systems at all. They use ledgers. And if they use ledgers, that may not do for the EU regulation. So they have to stop supplying fertilizer. Now, one of the things somebody might be able to tell me is you're also restricted spreading lime, calcium carbonate. How on earth is there any problem with spreading lime? Calcium is good for you, and carbonate is good for you, and you can mix it in a drop of water and you can drink it, and it's good for you. Lime is good for the teeth, the bones, and everything else. So why is it restricted? Maybe somebody would know underneath. Now, in Holland, there's a big dread now among the government that Geert Wilders' party, who is about 26% of the vote, they prevented him forming a government, and all the lefties got together and they're trying to form a government. But they have no legitimacy because he won the majority of the vote, maybe twice as many votes as they got. But now he's attracting the farmers' vote as well, and that's quite a big vote in Holland. So what we're involved with here is a war, of course. This is a war for the rural way of life, for food production. Nobody wants poaching ground, overgrazing ground, damaging the environment or anything else. And I myself would not mind some control or some guidelines on where to spread fertilizer and everything like that. But I have some land which needs it, and I have some land which doesn't, and I get my land tested, and tests have consistently shown that phosphates are not needed, and phosphate is a finite resource, and I don't put out phosphates. And people try to sell me fertilizer with phosphate. I don't need it. I need three things on my farm: lime, nitrogen, and potash. And potash itself is restricted, and I don't know why they're restricting potash. Potash is no real harm on land either. So it's a bit strange. In Holland, they're buying the cows out. It's only a matter of time here which to start buying out the cows. They're destroying the farming industry. They don't want farming, and they want data centres which are equally polluting, and if you call CO2 pollution, they're replacing the cows. And in Ireland, the Green Party and the government of Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, and Sinn Féin all prefer data centres to farmers, even though the impact is the same. Now, of course, they're being led and said by the EU and the World Economic Forum and Ursula von der Leyen and that, and the voting is not going their way. Unfortunately, when Britain left the EU, it failed to dump all this junk. The Conservative government did not, and Boris Johnson did not, throw out the whole thing and go back to the way we always did things, which was a really good way. They didn't do it, and so Britain's economy is not good. You look at Richie Sunak; he's getting nowhere, and you're going to have a Labour government in that'll be much worse. But he did not hold control of his vote. He went for green stuff. In Ireland, you see the Fine Gael party. No, it brought them no joy. Fianna Fáil brought them no joy, and we're slowly chipping away at Sinn Féin's vote. There's no votes in this. The ordinary people are ahead of the governments. They're ahead of the governments. It looks to me with the fertilizer that they're that ignorant they don't realise that limestone is perfectly all right. Nothing wrong with it at all. You could throw a heap of it in the field there. In fact, barley will grow on a heap of lime, and you need lime for barley. You need lime for potatoes as well. Potatoes grow well in potash-rich soil. And nitrogen It's not the case that nitrogen only lasts a few months. If you put out nitrogen in March or April, you'll see the effects of it right into November. And sometimes, you go around a turn or you're reversing, you forget to turn off the shaker, and you have double the nitrogen, and you'll see green grass growing there and mushrooms and everything. So we don't need any more. I wouldn't need any more than I need. I just like to put out enough, just enough to do the job. And different soils have different reactions. We tend to be a little late here with soil, and other people put it out and it works quick. But the earlier you can get it out, the better, in my opinion. I don't think the rain washes it away in the same way as it might maybe slurry and all of that. So that's the story, folks. We are having a bad year with the rain so far, there's no doubt about that. And cattle still in, but isn't it great to have the facility to keep them in and to look after them inside until the weather improves. That's it, folks. This war is going on. There's no point whinging about it anymore. I think generally the public are now well aware of this. I think the recent referendum on the family in Ireland has given them an unbelievable spooking, and I think that shows you that even dyed-in-the-wool traditional voters may depart from them. And I see posters there on my videos, and that's great that people post underneath and say they knew dyed-in-the-wool Fine Gael supporters who walked off. I mean, what has any of the Fine Gael TDs and ministers, what has Heather Humphrey constituents in common with these green loonies? Or what have they in common? What is it about them that they run away over to them and leave the constituencies behind? And is that going to work? It would seem to me that I know their constituents who they're not like that at all. They're sound people. They're not like that at all. And up in Meath and all that, and Damien English, and he's whinging about what's going on. He was in the government to bring in all this green baloney. He knows the racket with the North-South Interconnector, and he knows it's illegal, and he could raise it. He could ask one question, and he'd be more effective than all my channels put together, but he refuses. So what kind of a grip have the party leaders on these people, and what kind of grip has the World Economic Forum and the EU? We know they lay down the law, but that wouldn't stop you whinging about it. That wouldn't stop you complaining about it and all of that. It is amazing that I and a few more, about 5 of us, maybe 6 of us in Ireland, have crippled the whole renewable energy thing using the SEA directive. We have really brought it down. They don't know where to turn. Every wind farm and all pylons in Ireland built since 2006 are illegal and have no right to be there, and technically under section 160 of the Planning and Development Act can be forced to be pulled down. That will be some fun when that happens. So folks, we'll see you back for something else. The war is going all right. And then, of course, you have the other things that's going on in the world. I mean, while the EU shuts down its farmers, and America's telling them to do it too, America's not doing that to the same degree at all. They're going to be selling the food into Europe. And Russia is, you know what they're doing? They're now looking in England, oh my God, we have to fight Russia. And Europe says, oh, we're going to have to fight Russia. Oh my God, and the Chinese and all this. And they have only enough ammunition to last them 2 months. 2 months, that with normal fire. And if they fire a bit more, they won't last half that time. They have no industry. They've killed off industry with all this green crap. They've trying to kill off the food. So when the war starts, there'll be no food to feed the troops anyway. And they'll have to import it from Russia. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if President Putin doesn't up the ante and improve Russia. Russia has a lot of extra land, and we're going to see Africa developed for agriculture. They're not going to pay any heed of that. It's a death sentence by the people of Europe who vote for these loonies, and they're going to get what they vote for. And you do get what you vote for. They're being taken for suckers, really. Suckers. I heard a fellow from Sinn Féin the other day saying no MEP returned for Sinn Féin this year will vote for Ursula von der Leyen. I mean, she's a German, for God's sake. Have we not had 2 world wars caused by Germany? They started the first one and they started the second one. And they're still running the show. And whatever hope you had with Britain in there, you have none now when they're out of it. And that was one of the things about Britain. You had some bit of balance. Now the Germans are running the whole show, and they did it twice before, and we're only about 110 years from they did it before, and they're going to do it 3 times again. And this is the reality of the situation, unless we can stand up to them. And my YouTube channel is partly to do that. Uh, so one of the things is that in Holland, the farmers have given out flags of Holland. The Holland flag, the Dutch flag, is red, white, and blue, and they've turned them upside down, a sort of an insult. And the veterans is complaining they've turned them upside down as part of the process. And a chap was telling me today that in Holland, if you install solar panels on your roof years ago, they tell you can sell the electricity back to the grid. Now, that electricity is stupid. Can you imagine me putting a solar panel on this house that would light a light bulb? And the power coming in on your power grid and into this house will weld. It will melt a hole straight down through a piece of 1/4 inch steel. And it'll drill right through it. That's how intense the power coming into a house is when it's put through a welder and a transformer. And you tell me that a solar panel can do that. That is utter nonsense. It's feeble, it's useless. But what they tell me now in Holland is they've stopped paying the people supplying the solar electricity into the grid. In other words, the house panels, the ones on the roofs and all of that, they stopped paying them. They said you're not getting that anymore. So I don't know how that'll go under contract law, but it shows you that somebody slowly must be copping on. You would imagine that eventually, with so many universities and so many schools and so many smart people, that some of it would leak through, either through maybe a child getting a job in the government and then the father telling her this is the facts, and it be coming around that way. But up to now, they can't believe this. It's a question of produce electricity, that'll save the planet. Millions and millions of it, millions of windmills to solar panels, everything. But they can't understand that it's not what you produce, it's what you save, and these things don't save any fossil fuel at all. And they try to tell you that electric cars are green when they're run on coal, oil and gas. And they're dying out too. So folks, the level of ignorance is unbelievable. I've invested a lot in this channel to get that across to people. And if they knew or believed I was wrong, they would challenge me to a debate. They'd say, anyone wants a debate, come on, we'll settle them. Someone on behalf of the wind industry, someone in the Department of Energy would put up a professor or something else, and he would try to make mincemeat of Val and a few more of us and all of that, or they'd put up a big lawyer. There's nobody like that. The reason is they cannot deal with it, because what we're saying is the truth. It is the truth. And it's leading, this ignorance is leading to what happened in Ukraine. I won't say now that if everyone was as wise as me, there'd be no war in Israel or Gaza. I won't go that far. It would be unfair of me to do that. But I can tell you one thing, I doubt if there'd be a war in Ukraine. Now, some people will say Putin had this in mind and was going to do it at all stages. He didn't do it during the thing. He didn't do this thing, you know. He waited till that was over. And I can't even say that word, isn't that something? But he didn't do that. I don't know. But now that he's emboldened and he's won in Ukraine, he's won, just for all intents and purposes. Maybe they'll put up a better fight another while, but they're bled out, really. He could move into Moldova. You wouldn't know. They're mustering troops all over the place, but they have no industry. So he probably feels, why not take it now when it's going? And that's a bit horrific. So I cannot say Putin would not do some depredation if there was no ignorance or stupidity or green baloney on the go. But I think if he was dealing with people he could trust, who were intelligent, and he could meet across the table and have a logical discussion with, he might think again. But what he sees when he looks at Ursula von der Leyen is a blithering idiot. A blithering idiot. What he sees with cabbage head Eamon Ryan of the Green Party, a blithering idiot. Natalie Bennett is a peer in London. She's from Australia, came over and became a peer. And you see that, and when he sees the like of that, what are you up to? And when he sees all that, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know what might take place. Be a wise man that had predicted. Now they're afraid that he'll cut the cables off Valencia. Most of the transatlantic messaging goes through a cable from Ireland because it's the most westerly part, very safe. Nobody bothered touching it and going to all over to America. And now they're a bit afraid he might have a go at that. And even somebody saying we don't join NATO, he cut the cables and all of that. But I don't know how accurate that is. I know that there are a lot of cables running out from County Kerry. If you want to post underneath, certainly do, certainly do. But so that's the situation, folks. It's a pity there's people dying because it's lovely to laugh at them, but unfortunately, how do you laugh when people lose their lives? I don't know. Anyway, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I hope you enjoyed the bit of an old chat there. It's good to be back on YouTube. Good luck. Thank you very much.